expect a lot of public out there, but. And we're up. Okay. Good. Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 9th at 10 a.m. We're starting our workshop with Colorado Department of Local Affairs. We have a couple representatives from them. We have a staff representative as well. We'll have a presentation on special district formation options today. Just as a side note, Commissioner Thayer is out this morning. He had surgery on his hand and has therapy this morning. And Commissioner Richardson had a prior appointment. He expects to be here before this is completed, but wouldn't be here at the very beginning. So we'll catch him up later if we need to. So I just want to thank you guys for coming out on a snowy morning and sharing this with us. It's something that's important that we understand. I know we're looking particularly at one project in particular, but having a good overview is also a good thing for us every once in a while as well. So we'll just, with that, Mark, I'll turn it over to you. You can do what you need to do, and we'll ask questions as needed.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Schroeder. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. So yeah, as the Commissioner indicated, we're here to explore the different types of special district formation options that could benefit and assist non-profit water provider in the way of Agate Water Association. We'll do introductions to get started. I'm Mark Denreiter, Director of Community and Economic Development.
I'm Todd Leopold. I'm the Central Regional Manager for Department of Local Affairs. Appreciate you having us.
Joe McConnell, also Department of Local Affairs. I work with special districts and finances.
Good morning, I'm Will Koger with Forger & Associates, and our firm prepared the project needs assessment for the town of Agate.
Bart Greer, County Attorney.
John Fletcher, County Manager.
Rhonda Braun, County Clerk.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. So just going to do a little backstory here on Agate Water Association and the current situation to get to present day, and then I'll hand it over to our DOLA friends, Todd and Joe. So Agate has a population of 140 individuals. There are 38 service connections, taps in that water association. Back in August of 2021, AWA was notified that they had an issue with their water quality. The system was out of compliance. Then CDPHE, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, they issued an enforcement order. They found multiple holes in the roof in the water tank, and that was the source of contamination. This particular water tank serves the entire system. Then a project needs assessment was done. As Will indicated during the introductions, the P&A was funded in part by DOLA. Really appreciate their assistance there. And then a smaller match was done by Elbert County. So what the project needs assessment yielded was basically two alternatives. One, rehabbing the existing 140,000 gallon water tank. The cost on this will be approximately $360,000. It's not going to increase the tank volume, and then it probably would have to be replaced in about 15 years or so if went the rehab fix route. The alternative would be constructing a new tank, and that would have a greater capacity in terms of volume, so that would be 200 to 250,000 gallons. The cost on that would be $2.1 million approximately. The new water tank would not only expand the volume, but it would also last, if taken care of, between 35 and 50 years. There has been a nonprofit agency, RCAC is the name, that has been working with Agate Water Association to help them with their budgeting, some other administrative functions at no cost to AWA. And before we conclude this segment here, just want to let y'all know the nonprofits in the state, they don't have access in terms, if you're a water association like this, they don't have access to many grants. especially the state revolving fund, the SRF fund grants, only loans. And Agate Water Association, can probably get some loans, but they really need to figure out a way to access those grants. So here we are looking at possible solutions to help with funding for Agate Water Association. Todd, Joe, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thanks, Mark. First, I appreciate you all having us today. Really, this opportunity is just to give you a good overview of kind of district formation, what that looks like. We're going to spend a little time talking about, benefits of each. What does structure look like? Kind of process of going about it, and what do you see the benefits and the concerns you may want to be aware of as we kind of enter into this. So I'm fortunate to have Joe here. Joe's really our expert in this arena. What we'll do is we'll walk through this presentation. Feel free to stop us, ask any questions, and then we'll, if we don't have any, we'll wait till the end and we can talk about options that you may have. And I think we're in a good position. I think Mark gave a good overview of kind of why we're here in Agate and the kind of the concerns on the water side. But I think it's really a conversation about financing and funding and how to set them up for success. And I think that's the ultimate goal that I think we're all trying to strive for. So, Joe, I'll turn it to you and feel free to ask any questions as we go through the slide presentation.
So I've seen these as coming in from the state revolving fund as credit reports. I'm not an attorney. I haven't set them up myself, so keep that in mind as we go through these. So Agate Water Association and systems like it, they serve a very small community. There's going to be a problem with economy of scale. A private nonprofit may be eligible for low-interest state revolving fund loans or USDA funding, but private entities are not generally going to be eligible, as you mentioned. And so these are some of the finance options, the basic ones, I think, that I'll talk about. They're kind of arranged. Those are kind of arranged in order of easiest to hardest to organize, in my opinion. There's differing levels of county involvement for each of those, obviously. So the least complicated is the local improvement district. The primary method of loan repayment for these would be a special assessment. And you can see the statutory reference right there. Public improvement districts, or PIDs, are more complicated to set up for the locals and would be an ongoing feature of county government as they're governed ex officio. They may collect user fees or property tax revenue, depending on voter approval. And then finally, special districts. Those are water and sanitation districts. Those will require quite a bit more involvement from the county. From the locals as petitioners. Maybe some handholding from the county as they're trying to put their service plan together and submit to the county. But once formed, they're independent local governments. And there's some pluses and minuses there. I'll also mention that Larimer County uses those improvement districts a lot. And it has a program that I think Elbert County might want to look into if it does see more than one of these coming into play in the future. So LID statute gives counties the power to form LIDs for any public improvement. It specifically says constructing, installing, or otherwise improving the whole or any part of any system for the transmission of water. I think that includes a storage tank. There's also a part of that statute that says any improvement that a county can make per statute, counties can have water and sewer facilities. So I assume that includes a storage tank, but that's up to your attorney to decide. I know Larimer County had done LID for a sequence batching plant, so a sewer treatment plant. So that's about everything, including collection. But I can't make that legal decision for you. On the slides, it's like a general layout of how this is set up. Like all of these, there's going to be some sort of voter approval at some point. LIDs will have to have voter approval for the special assessments because LIDs cannot collect fees or rates for maintenance or operations. So they had to approve multi-year debt as part of a Tabor election. For the most part, private systems like Agate Water, they're gonna know that they have a problem. In this case, we know it's a storage tank. It's important because if the BOCC wants to go down this road, they'll kick off the process with mailing, quote, a brief synopsis of the proposed improvements to each address in the proposed district, about 10 days prior to creation. Unless the property owners of 50% or more of the assessed value object to the formation, the district can be created by a board resolution. The BOCC may also approve the improvements themselves at that same hearing, which would require an additional 30 days prior to the hearing, if I'm reading the statute correctly. This notice occurs subsequent to determination of cost of materials, and a detailed notice of these findings is published in the newspaper. I think in practice, that may just happen once at a single hearing, at least from what I was gathering from our records of other LIDs. From what I've seen, the improvements are approved, and then the resolution creating the district is made, and then district voters approve multi-year debt obligations via those property assessments afterwards. That can be tricky because for the last 5 years, project costs have been going up so quickly. So keep that in mind. As far as timing, Tabor approval can only happen in November for a county. And ballot language is generally due right around Labor Day. Well, I guess we got the county clerk. So you guys know that. And it's good to have you here because for the next one, there's a question that might come.
Real quick question. Can the district be formed and there not be an assessment levied at that time? So that it's just a district is there, but there's nothing there? Okay.
LIDs may be started by petition too, but initiated by resolution obviously would be faster. Especially if you want to get a grant and know how much they want to borrow up front. Here's some of the benefits of a local improvement district. As I explained, they're easy to form, at least compared to PIDs and special districts. Another benefit, by virtue of the fact that LIDs are governed by a local government, is an LID is eligible for those grants. State revolving fund and energy impact assistance grants is what I'm more familiar with. Revolving fund grants are available to disadvantaged communities. I looked at the census data, and for these little areas, it's tough because it's not a town, it's not a census designated place.
So I've got a question that kind of goes back, but is related to that. I understand you're talking about resolution being faster, but a petition would show what kind of support there is, correct? We don't actually know what the support is of the members out there per se.
That's a great question. And Larimer County does require that LID, communities like this who are interested in LID formation have a petition so that there's a good chance of success for that Tabor approval. So, and I know in this case, we're not sure about the local support, right? Is that accurate? So.
And I think it's just fair to note that doesn't have to occur. But what you alluded to is you want success. And I think how you engage the public and those that would be in that district are really important. As Joe alluded to, I think the question comes down to, because they aren't a census designated area, we're having to look at Elbert County in general to determine whether it's a disadvantaged community designation. As Joe said, I just don't see that playing out. I'm not sure how the district or the boundary of the district would maybe change, but it could be a little challenging. What that really means to you all is if there was a grant, or let me step back and say, if it's an There it is, I think there you go. If, in the event that you were to go after a state revolving loan fund, it's not a disadvantaged communities, that just means there isn't loan forgiveness. There's opportunities for loan forgiveness under that program. In the event that that qualification didn't occur, the loan would be, straightforward. But there are some opportunities and benefits to entities that are have a designation of a disadvantaged community. So we'd have to do a little work on that. I'm not sure this area qualifies quite honestly, but we'd have to dive into a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we can take assessor data to figure out the actual value of the properties there, and that can help us if the one of our analysts wanted to put together a business case that they are disadvantaged, then the state revolving fund board would have to approve and say, okay, there's evidence that they are actually. And I haven't been involved as much with the state revolving fund for the last 6 months, so I'm a little dangerous here. But I believe there's a bipartisan infrastructure bill component that's a little easier to get forgiveness from on the water side. So now would be an opportune time, I think, for this whatever it becomes, if anything. So,
And we've had these conversations previously and in other meetings related to disadvantaged community. And, if you're able to zero in to the unincorporated community of Agate, I'll go out on a limb and say it would qualify. So however y'all can get creative on that to try to open up grant funding for them if this route was taken, it would be much appreciated.
Yeah, and that's why I think there's some advantages to forming a district and establishing those specific parameters, because that's what we would make that determination on. That LID would be actually the financing arm, and so we'd use that designation versus using the county's determination of disadvantaged community.
yeah, and one thing to point out though is but the way they have this program set up is there's no way that I know of that the Agate could completely avoid a loan. So that is something to keep in mind, at least the way they have it now. But it would be the county receiving the grant as part of for the local improvement district. The special assessments are generally, from what I've seen for these water or sewer projects, paid back by an identical amount for each property, as opposed to like property tax where it's based on value. Some would say it's a little bit more.
So based on the 2.1 million current dollar amount that you quoted earlier, with 138 taps, what's the approximate annual assessment that would look like?
It would depend on how many. Well, I didn't run the numbers for that, but if we had a good grant loan, project put together, you might be able to get that down to. And if it's a disadvantaged community with principal forgiveness, I mean, it could go down quite a bit, down below $500,000. It just, it won't be small.
I'm talking about what each house is going to be paying out annually. If it's a $1,200 bill on an annual basis, I don't know how realistic that is.
Yeah, no, I have the math somewhere in this computer and I can do it, but let me do it after, because it's
Doing math on the fly in front of folks.
with that, I don't know how to amortize debt in my head.
So a grant wouldn't necessarily cover the entire cost. There'd be other
There would be a loan component, I'm pretty
mechanisms,
sure.
loans through there.
From the last projects I was doing, it was up to 80% of the loan component.
Yeah, so if it's, again, considered a disadvantaged community, it can be between 60 and 80% loan forgiveness. Really depends on the jurisdiction. So, I think your point's well taken. I think running the numbers, right now we're running a little over, I believe, 3%, three and a quarter, something like that.
Yeah.
So on a loan at 2.1 million, depends on the term, 20, 30 years, depending on how that rolls out. If there's loan forgiveness on that, which actually transpires at the time of the, if you were to, and let's just use an analogy that they are loan disadvantaged community. At the time of the loan, when you sign on that line, that loan takes place. At that exact juncture, they've given the loan forgiveness, so it doesn't happen towards the end or whatever. So you can have a better idea. In the case, say it's 75%, it may be a $500,000 loan, not a $2.1 million loan. So it's fairly significant, and that's why, you know, if we're fairly close on agate, doing some sort of business case to determine disadvantaged community could be really advantageous for that community, quite frankly.
So if the district was unable to meet its payment obligations, does that fall back on the county then?
Right, there would be a lien on the properties nearly as strong as a property tax lien.
And Bart raises a great question related to the realistic nature of something like this with 38 taps. Yeah, so obviously we'll definitely would like to get, you know, that information. Just run a scenario, right?
So we're looking at 38, not 138 taps?
It's 38.
38.
38, so even less. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we need to get a realistic temperature test to even see if it just seems reasonable to even pitch it, right?
I would also note that when CDPHE reviewed the project needs assessment, they asked for a projection of a 20-year projection with 50% loan forgiveness and without any forgiveness. And so those were the two scenarios that they wanted to see. And along with that 20-year projection, you would have to think about, you know, the pipes probably need to be replaced during that time, and there's some other things that need to be done for the system to be whole. So.
I guess, you know, you'd always think, you know, maybe repairing is all they can afford too. Go ahead.
We don't have anybody from the Agate Water Authority here today, correct?
Correct.
This is just me speaking. I can't speak for the other two, but I think probably a meeting with the folks in Agate when we have all the information, we can sit down and talk with them is probably a good idea. So they're probably aware they have a problem, but they don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, this was just a good first meeting, you know, with this group to get a general sense of the various options, and then moving forward, you know, if any of these options look, you know, possible, then we need to certainly convene with the folks at AWA.
But yeah, as I mentioned, so with the LIDs, besides collecting the assessments and paying the debt, there's not much else to do for the county. It just, the loan gets repaid. I don't even think there's a dissolution discussed because it's just a financing improvement district. But I assume you could just dissolve it by resolution. So some of the challenges, ownership is a little weird. So, you know, you're financing a storage tank, but there's still a collection or distribution system that's, and there's maintenance on everything from that private entity also. So that can be a little bit complicated. You'd probably need some sort of agreement with Agate still going forward. As I mentioned, it's only for the improvement itself. So, you know, the special assessments can't pay, and if there's like a problem with the tank after it gets built, or, you know, if you go down the repair route, if there's more repairs in 10 years, you can't collect more assessments to pay for those. It's a one-time shot.
Do we know there's some sort of income that's coming in associated with the Agate Water Authority presently, correct?
Yes.
You know what that amount is?
Yeah, I have seen, well, maybe not me, but one of our analysts, because I did see that we did run the numbers.
Isn't it around 30-something grand annually?
If it's that, that would be pretty high for 48. It's minimal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
It's on here, I promise, somewhere. I'll connect to my VPN when I'm done, and I'll try to find that. And then again, timing, you know, the election being in November and only in November, if we can't hit it this year, we gotta wait all the way till November of '24.
And that's an issue since it's a health department enforcement order on the system right now that has been open for a while and needs to be resolved as quickly as we can, so.
Yeah, I think it's a structure. I will tell you, just looking at some other systems a bit more, the lag time to actually get infrastructure and get the materials can be, that gets really problematic. So just because that you know, if you don't hit the November timeframe, you're waiting another year, and you're probably waiting another year or so, depending on the complexity of the water tank itself. You've probably seen this, and just you know, there's just supply chain issues that are really challenging right now.
Yeah, and costs are really going up. I just told Joe this morning that the town of Severance bid a 1.5 million gallon elevated tank. Their low bid was $5.4 million. It wasn't that long ago, you'd think $1 to $2 a gallon, which would be, you know, 1.5 to 3 million in the range, but for 5.4 million as a low bid is pretty high.
So on that note, since they've had this order in place for a while, how lenient is CDPHE before they come in and whatever the other authority they have to stop usage? I assume they have that authority. I don't know.
I think they're encouraging action as quickly as possible, and they understand it's going to take a while for the wheels to turn, but I think they want to see continuous progress.
So this isn't in the slides, but I put this in last night. These are Larimer County's LID flow chart. As I mentioned, they do require a petition of some sort with 50% or more of the property owners. I can't remember if it's property owners or the 50% of assessed value, but they do require a petition, so that might be something to consider.
As I understand, there's a significant number of these properties are rental properties. So we get into that. Is it the people that live in the district, or is it the property owner that we're petitioning and asking?
That's a good question. I believe LIDs and PID voters are kind of like special districts where you're registered to vote in Colorado and either a resident or a property owner, but registered to vote in Colorado.
Are LIDs under Title 32 also?
They're under the county title, 3020, Section 600.
So for running the election,
They're creatures of the county, so special districts are Title 32. So public improvement districts, with PIDs, the creation process requires more upfront work because it's, for the locals at least, because it's citizen initiated with a 3-person petitioner team. Biggest difference is organization requires a vote of the locals unless 100% of the property owners sign off on it, which is kind of hard to do no matter where you are. The association already has a good idea of what it wants to do, so that's good. A PID needs either 200 or 30%, whichever is less, of the electors of the proposed district to sign the petition. And I think we said, you know, there's 138. I don't know if they're all registered to vote or not, but
38 tapped.
Oh, so maybe, so less than 100 people, so. Okay. So, big families out there, but, so 30% of that, whoever's registered to vote. So maybe it's like 30, who knows? Once they've got enough signatures, the petition's filed with the clerk of the BOCC. They set a hearing date at some point, 20 to 40 days after the petition's filed, probably at a regular meeting. The clerk sends a notice to the electors' addresses, and if the BOCC concludes it's a worthwhile venture, an election is ordered to occur within 60 to 120 days. Obviously, you use a county clerk. I'm guessing the county clerk would want to use November for the election. In this case, there doesn't have to be Tabor, unless you want there to be.
For the PID.
So yeah, I don't know if you have special elections very often. I would imagine they're more costly.
Occasionally, we formed a PID 3, 4, 5 years ago, so we're somewhat familiar with
Okay.
the process that side took. And we were able, I understand, to run concurrently the formation of the district along with the Tabor issue. So it's kind of an if-then. If this passes, then this is what's going to happen. And so I know the BOCC sets as the board of directors for the PIDs. I assume that's the same for LIDs as well.
Right. Well, you know, for the LID, I guess you could say ex officio, but I don't think they really govern anything.
Okay.
Because once they set it up, it's just financing that one project.
Nothing else is going on.
I believe you actually, as the commissioners, would kind of serve in that, ex officio capacity. This isn't an operational maintenance sort of thing. This is truly a financing model. So once the formation's there, I think you would basically be the
That's where the oversight would still be taking place.
That brings up another question for me, though. I guess, we're talking about the tank itself pretty much, right? We're not talking about the delivery system, which is, if I'm understanding correctly, what you said earlier, right? There's already a delivery system there, but it may be in some state of disrepair, just like the tank.
Right.
So this is not going to solve that potentially. This is financing only for the tank itself. So as far as repairs and maintenance,
Usually the underlying or the original private entity would continue doing that by collecting whatever fees they had.
Yeah, I guess considering the state that we're in now, what's to say that, given that they've been collecting some amount of fees, we're not going to be in the same situation 10 years down the road.
Right. I mean,
We can get a new tank, but that tank's going to deteriorate some. There is going to be maintenance that's going to be needed on the tank and the delivery system. Doesn't sound like this necessarily resolves those issues per se.
no, unless you wanted to, unless they're agreeable to it. There are PIDs that, do more than just, they would kind of run it as a special district almost.
So was that part of the assessment beyond the tank, or was it just the tank?
It was just the tank, but I would think it makes sense to look at the whole system for financing those improvements over a period of 20 years. You probably want to make sure the whole thing is ready for to safely serve the citizens.
Yeah, it's my understanding the delivery system itself is, 50 to 60 years old.
Okay.
And just knowing what the minimum amount that's being paid now, they haven't built up any money for any capital replacement. This is just to keep the lights on and the wheels on the bus. So I would, I think you need to think broader than just a tank, quite honestly. I think, because you're spot on. I think you're going to get into this. You may find that their distribution system really is challenged in addition to this tank. the timing of when you do that may be different, but, and do the financing, but in absent of that, I think it's, you know, I think you're looking a little more longer term than just one-time need.
And the operator noted for us that they have to dial back their pressure that they serve at, because if they go above, you know, like 40 PSI or something, then they're subject to breaking lines. So I would say the distribution system needs to be fixed up as well.
So, you know, organization could go pretty quickly with this too, depending on if, you know, how involved the locals want to get. Not as quickly as an LID, of course, but if there is a Tabor component, you still have that timing issue. But again, you know, we have, grants will be available. PIDs may fix and increase user rates, similar to a Title 32, Article 1 water district or water and sewer district. So a Tabor vote isn't always necessary. I don't think you can avoid a Tabor election, even if 100% of the property owners petition, though. Unlike the LID, the user rates may be used to, quote, acquire, construct, and maintain improvements. So there's a stronger chance the existing private entity may no longer be needed at all. I'm not sure how that would work for Agate Water. I think it's something we'd have to discuss with them, and I'm happy to sit in with that.
But maintenance is not as much of a problem potentially on that.
If you have brand new equipment, you know, a tank and distribution system should last 50 years, but.
Right, but the issue of collecting, you know.
Right, collecting the fees.
Maintenance costs in addition, it seems to be a little more robust.
Correct. And I mentioned BOCC governs ex officio. Counties have more managerial capacity than a small water association, or usually water districts do. Could be more sustainable. A challenge would be just getting the citizen-initiated petition going. If
Yeah,
they're not,
'cause you're raising taxes, right? So,
at the very least, there'll be higher fees, you know, much higher than they're probably paying now. A vote is always required just to organize it, unlike an LID, which is just a resolution. And another con is, does the Board of County Commissioners want to govern it ex officio? I'm sure every time someone moves into that district, if there are high fees, we'll be talking to you about it, so. That's the Larimer County flow chart for PIDs. I will mention that they require a Tabor vote, and I think, and this, I came across this in Jefferson County too, with a water district where it was hard to collect fees. It's just easier to collect property tax than a monthly fee and come after people for being late on their bills when, you know, a lien on your property for not paying or a tax sale is pretty strong in comparison. And
that's the LID,
this is the PID.
but that's the comparison you're making to the LID, right? Or not?
No, so, okay, the comparison between collecting fees versus only using property tax repayment for debt.
You know,
If you don't want to be involved with the day-to-day operations as a county.
I mean, administratively, obviously, that's going to be easier on a property tax basis than doing it on a, you know, a monthly bill, and then, you know, you get into collection scenarios and unique nuances such as that. But yeah, there are some interesting dynamics here. Well, and as you know, as Joe alluded to, we have some, you know, org structures and processes here. We'll have that shared to you so you can take a look at how that process works.
So just pointing out, if it is a mill levy within the PID, then they also will share in the SOT tax distribution from the county. So they will get, it'd be small, but there would be extra funds that would come into that district because of the mill levy. It's prorated based on the total mills throughout the county.
Special districts. So this one's going to be much more laborious and convoluted for the locals at least than an LID or PID. You guys are probably familiar with metro districts, so that's how they're organized. The first step in the process for the persons proposing the district is to draft up a service plan. Service plan is proposed to provide a needed service, in this case water. It should be pretty simple for a single service, but if you're not familiar with this, technical language, it's tough for locals to do. We do have some guidance on our website. The service plan gets filed, planning commission considers it. They consider the service plan and make recommendations to the BOCC. Petitioners also mail notices to the property owners of the district, and those wishing to be excluded may do so by request. And that's the case for all three of these districts. Doesn't mean they get excluded, even if they ask. BOCC makes a decision on the service plan within 20 days of the hearing, and if approved, the petition goes out for circulation. And like a PID, it's 30% or 200 of the taxpayers, so however many 30% is of that. Then the petitioners file that petition with the district court. If the petition is sufficient, a court date is set and the court orders the election. That's very non-comprehensive, but the county clerk doesn't necessarily have to be involved with that. It can be done independently. If the election passes, district court orders the district organized. It takes a lot longer to form these, but if there's no Tabor component, it's a little easier. Even if there is, though, they get to ask it 3 times every 2 years because they have their regular elections in May of odd years, so they can ask it then too. So the benefits, advantages. So unlike the PID and LID, the special district functions with a board that is independent of the county. Another pro is, with 30 days notice, a special district can increase user fees as necessary and perform as much maintenance as needed. I assume the association's assets would be transferred to the district. And so we're back to a single entity, separate of the county, performing all these duties. And like I said, they could do it with property tax, they could do it with fees, they could even set up a local improvement district. I think I can't remember what it's called. It's like just an improvement district, but they could also collect special assessments if they really want to. The pro of being a special district is also a challenge, though. I'm on a water board, and we have, I think, 8,000 homes or something, and at least 10,000 electors, and we don't always have a full board of 5 directors, and this is like 100 people. So,
I just think size matters here to some degree. I think you're setting up a pretty extensive structure for a very small subset of folks, and as Joe alluded to, sometimes be a challenge to have folks serve in this capacity for any length of time. You're tapping into a small pool of folks. So.
Yeah, as it stands now, it's challenging to get participation, let's put it that way, from AWA in terms of their members.
Yeah, I mean, that's the compliance calendar. We provide that just as a service to the special districts, but I mean, that's small font and it's 4 pages long, so, I mean. Now, they don't have to do all those, but there's a lot of stuff on there. So if someone's not paying attention, which happens a lot with these smaller districts, not saying it would happen here, but it can be problematic. So I wish there was another water district close by that they can maybe include into. They don't have to be contiguous, but I don't think there's any around that area at all. And I mean, the closest town is Deer Trail. So that's all I have. I'm happy to answer questions and that I haven't answered already.
Yeah, I guess regardless of what format is being considered, and it sounds like there's probably some that are more appropriate than others, right? You know, the reality is we don't know exactly what potential buy-in, and that may be sussed out with a discussion and further discussions than there already are. But even if it is, you know, a lid that is ultimately pursued here, I think the bottom line is knowing what a realistic assessment is going to be on an annual basis is going to be important. If it is $1,200, $1,500, $2,100 you know, annually, that's obviously going to play into community support and whether that's actually viable or feasible. So I think that getting that number is important, even if it's only for the 2.1 million tank. Even though I think we've kind of agreed here today that that's probably not enough. We probably need the delivery system and other maintenance type of costs included in that. So the bottom line on what that annual assessment would be is going to be important to get that number.
No, I would agree with you. What I will tell you is not doing anything doesn't make it free either. And what will end up happening is, you know, CDPHE will come in, and you don't want to be in a scenario where you have no options and they honestly want to shut down your water system, and then it's just bottled water, and then we're in a real scenario. So I agree completely with you. I think it'd be appropriate to really sit down and have a real frank conversation with the water authority, because I do think you're at a point, a critical juncture from their standpoint. But it's, yeah, I think what we can do, I think, is look at what is this disadvantaged community thing, because as you alluded to, the cost is going to be a really driving factor of what they see. If there are opportunities where the benefits of forming a district, or LID, PID, I should say, that can really change the dynamics up of what they would be. They're not going to, I will be honest, I don't think they're going to enjoy any of these options, but I'm not sure the viability of their properties in the event that they don't have a good water system are going to be really challenging. Whether they live there or they're looking to sell, they could have a real problem on that.
Yeah, I think the problems of Flint, Michigan and Jackson, Mississippi are in the consciousness of most people right now.
I agree.
So it's just a matter of what's actually realistic, I think. And I think for the decision-making by the board, but also having some self-determination, some skin in the game, and knowing that this is not going to be an ongoing problem. We're going to have the same discussion 15 years down the road. I think all of those things are important.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be around for eternity, maybe it's not a bad thing to have a water district if the people there would be interested in it, you know? And if it, and I don't know the geographic area of it very well. Is it just that area next to the water tank, or is it the entire small, like the school and all that?
Yeah, it would be that, the whole town area there. And if there were a public improvement district or a special district, you would probably want to also consider wastewater service, because there's they're just all on septic right now. And so, and they're small lots as well, so that could be an issue.
And to emphasize, the school is included and is a customer.
Okay.
And on that note, are there any opportunities, given the fact that the school is connected, in the way of potential funding or other types of resources to assist?
You know, I would have to think about it a little bit. I'll tell you, if they don't own the asset, it's going to be a challenge. Maybe their lines up to the school itself. Usually they can apply for BEST grants and some other, state funds, but typically if the system is not an asset of the school, they wouldn't be eligible to apply for that on that behalf. I can do some research, but right off the cuff, I think that could be a challenge.
There's some back of napkin math right there with no interest included. $36 a month for 38 tabs for a $500,000 loan. So it would be more than that, but.
How many years?
30 years,
Okay, I didn't.
360 months. Is what I use.
Yeah, that's probably doable, I would think. If we could get a hard chart or something like that, that would help as we talk with the citizens there.
I didn't mention county water districts, but that's also a possibility. I haven't had too many interactions with those, but Route County has like an enterprise for Phippsburg. They have a sewer system that they basically run as their own. Probably not very attractive, but it's
Yeah, I don't think, I'm not sure that's more cost effective either. If we're really, that would be, I'm not sure you're going to.
there would be ongoing administration.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hence why you don't see a ton of those.
Okay, guys, if anybody else has any questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. Is that the wrong meeting? It is? It's the wrong meeting? No, we appreciate you guys coming out, Joe and Todd, we really do. It was informative for me. I appreciate it, Will. I appreciate you coming out and your input as well. Guys, it was great. We'll continue the conversation.
Okay, I wanted to thank you guys. If you want to have a conversation, if you guys have some internal discussions, want to reach out with Agate, I'm happy, Joe, we can be there for a resource for you as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and happy to help you to assist where we can.
Thank you. That'll conclude our workshop.